streets, we will take them like a thunderstorm, raining down our power in the struggle. It has been reborn. We are shouting like a door. We hear our roar. We come for justice. Time is up. Waiting no more. No more taking lies, no more lies, we will compromise. We have had enough. We are strong and we're organized. We are not alone. We're on the path that was carved by those who came before, and they are with us. It's time to rise. Every step is a heartbeat, moving our feet as we're bringing the heat. Every breath that you died, left us alive. Carry on the fight. Every day is a new day to find a new way. Together we liberate life from our forms of oppression, 'cause we are destined to live in love. Love is a radical power to heal the soul. Let love rain down from the clouds. Is that what
would want to move into this thing. What you see in Congress, what you see in the state houses, are to bring some of the debate on that, meat pattern, because there are no laws anymore. Think about it. When you look at the trend of the law, and I mean, analyze the cases, read the cases, and see what they're saying. You don't hear anybody talking about, search and seizure, Fourth Amendment, or any other amendment. What you hear is popular discourse on talk radio stations or in the newspaper is lock them up yesterday, or kill them, you see. And it becomes a political, again, an engine feeding an industry, the prison industrial complex, you see. And it is so naked now, so negative now, that as Monica said, you can have over 1.1 million people in this prison, in these prisons. And you have people saying, well, they need to lock up more people. I mean, you have people actually saying, of course they don't know what they're talking about, but they're just following a script that has been laid down to them, by the media, by the politicians.
Good evening, and welcome to this evening's free Mumia Now program. We want to thank you all for joining us this evening. My name is Gabriel Bryant. I am one of your hosts this evening as we work to free Mumia now. First of all, we want to give thanks to everybody participating in the virtual world and joining us not only in Philadelphia, not only in the United States, but really across the world. Everybody tapping in, working in, and saying, we need Mumia Abu-Jamal home today. And so we thank you all for joining us this evening. First of all, we want to actually give a shout out to a longtime supporter of Mumia Abu-Jamal and the work of all political prisoners. The opening video by Taina Asili, her song there is so incredible. Here We Come. It's a protest song that she made last year, and it's very fitting for this moment. As I begin to pass it on to my co-moderator and co-host this evening, Sophia Williams, I just want to say briefly, December 9th, 1981, Mumia Abu-Jamal gets arrested, shot, in a case that changed the world and impacted us all. That case, in fact, brings us to this moment 40 years later. And after seeing so many victories in the streets over that time period, mobilizing, strategizing, Zoom calls, meetings, up early and up late, we get to a moment now where we say to ourselves, what's next for a cause that is 40 years long? And 40 years, for many, people aren't even 40 years old who are organizing for him right now. And so what does it mean to mobilize right now for a man who we all know is factually innocent and legally not guilty? And so we work today in that message, we work today in that mission, and we know with all of us unifying together that we can free them all, free them all, free them all, including free Mumia Abu-Jamal. I want to bring on our co-host, the co-moderator, my sister out of our campaign to bring Mumia home with New York City. How you doing, Sophia? Always good seeing you.
I'm here, Brother Gabe. Thank you so much. Again, welcome everyone. We're so happy that you have joined us this evening on a special evening. Again, my name is Sophia Williams. I've been a part of the struggle to free Mumia and to bring him home where he rightfully belongs for almost 10 years. But this year is hugely important. It bears repeating that today, again, is the 40th year behind the railroading and trumped up charges to keep Mumia silent. Mumia's voice and his words speak truth to power more today because Mumia is still here with us in spite of the many attempts to slowly kill him. So when I think of 40 years of imprisonment, I think of this movement nonstop fight to free him, to bring him home. And today we're much closer in bringing him home. So tonight's event will be amazing and will mobilize us to continue taking back the narrative and hitting the streets to win Mumia's freedom. Again, thank you for joining us tonight, and please stay till the very end. So let's get into our program. I pass it back over to you, Gabe. You're on mute.
Great, thank you, Sophia. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to have some opening words provided actually, and it's important that we provide. One of the great things that Mumia Abu-Jamal was able to do was connect folks from all walks of life. And so this first person who provided a statement is Clarence Thomas, who was a retired leader from the International Longshore Workers Union Local 10, which led a march of 20,000 people that shut down the ports of Los Angeles on May 1st, 1999, calling for freedom for Mumia Abu-Jamal. Thomas, also the author of Mobilizing in Our Own Name, Million Workers March, an anthology of the radical labor movement. And so with that being said, I actually want to read his statement that he provided for us this evening. He calls it a call to action for international workers' action, free Mumia Abu-Jamal, and all anti-racist and anti-imperialist freedom fighters. I think we actually have Clarence on, and so I'm going to make sure that we pass it on to our brother Clarence Thomas.
Solidarity greetings to all. It's great to be with you on this momentous occasion. I am a third generation longshore worker, retired member of ILW Local 10, as was mentioned. One of the first things I would like to say is this. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union, ILWU, has a long tradition of defending oppressed nationalities and political prisoners such as Angela Davis in the 1970s. As a retired member and officer of ILW Local 10, I have been a part of the local's efforts to free Mumia and all political prisoners. For more than 30 years, the ILWU has been in the vanguard of the labor movement to free the award-winning journalist, voice of the voiceless, and former Black Panther Party member, Mumia Abu-Jamal. In my recent anthology, Mobilizing in Our Own Name, The Million Worker March, there are many articles by Mumia that are featured, documenting his support for all of labor, organized and unorganized, including the ILWU Local 10 and the Million Worker March. Mumia describes himself as, quote, a proud card-carrying member of the National Writers Union, which is affiliated with the United Auto Workers, unquote. During his 40 years of imprisonment, his support for labor and the working class has been unwavering. During the 1960s, the Black Liberation Movement awakened my political and social consciousness along with countless other African-American youth. I joined the Black Panther Party, which facilitated my anti-racist, anti-capitalist, and anti-imperialist activism and the need for African-American for self-determination. Declaring the Black Panther Party, quote, public enemy number one, unquote, the US government sanctioned the murder of its leaders, vilified the organization and the press, and falsely imprisoned party members. Mumia Abu-Jamal has always maintained his innocence of the murder of Philadelphia police officer Daniel Faulkner. There are Black Panther members that were part of the Black Liberation Movement that have been languishing in prison for more than a half a century. Native American political prisoner Leonard Peltier has been in prison since 1977. The horrific imprisonment and abuse of these political prisoners and represents the long legacy of slavery, Jim Crow, apartheid, and racial violence perpetuated against African Americans. The labor movement can and must play a vital role in the release of all political prisoners. The ILWU recognizes that the prosecution of radical labor leaders such as Tom Mooney and Harry Bridges is directly connected by the use of lies and frame-ups by the US government to put these freedom fighters for justice that has been denied yet promised to African Americans and people of color in the US. The ILWU Longshore Division shut down the entire West Coast, as was mentioned, in 1999, demanding, quote, stop the execution and free Mumia, unquote. On June 19th, 2020, ILWU shut down all 29 ports on the West Coast, including Vancouver, Canada, to commemorate Juneteenth, to end systemic racism and stop police terror. No maritime cargo was moved for 8 hours on the entire West Coast. This solidarity action on the part of West Coast dock workers represents the power of labor at the point of production. It is this type of action that all labor must find the courage to exercise on a global level to bring home Mumia Abu-Jamal and all political prisoners. There's a slogan long associated with the ILWU that emanates from the Wobblies, the IWW. It goes like this: an injury to one is an injury to all. Free Mumia Abu-Jamal. Free them all. Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Clarence Thomas. I'm a retired member of ILW Local 10, co-founder of the Million Worker March movement, and author of the recent published book called Mobilizing in Our Own Name, Million Worker March. Free Mumia Abu-Jamal. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Clarence Thomas. Those were great, great words. So moving on, we have next on the legal, Lynn Washington Jr. So journalism professor Lynn Washington Jr. is an award-winning journalist whose career specializes in analytical, investigative coverage of issues involving social justice, race-based inequities, the news media, and law. Lynn has followed Mumia's case since the very beginning. Lynn, over to you.
Thank you, Sophia. I hope everybody could hear, and I am so pleased to be a part of this. On Wednesday, December 9th, 1981, two crimes occurred. One was the death of Officer Daniel Faulkner. The other involved what would become the legal lynching of Mumia Abu-Jamal. December 9th, 1981 is 14,610 days ago, many lifetimes. And Mumia has languished in prison, as Gabe mentioned a few minutes ago, being factually innocent and legally entitled to relief. During those 350,640 hours of Mumia's incarceration, we have witnessed prosecutors and police engage in misconduct. That has pretty much been a focus of a lot of the attention around Abu-Jamal's case. But the real weasel in the woodpile that has kept Mumia incarcerated when he should have been released has been the judges. The judges in Pennsylvania at the state court level at Philadelphia, as well as the appellate courts and the federal courts, district court, appeals courts, and the US Supreme Court. Judges have consistently bent and broken the law to deny Mumia relief. And when they haven't been able to effectively bend or break the law, they also just create new law. And that has been the matrix of the injustice that Mumia has been subjected to. Courts have ignored clear wrongdoing from the point of his arrest all the way up to the current appeals. Just a few weeks ago, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court denied Abu-Jamal's appeals that were pending before them. What they did was use process to pervert the justice that Mumia has been denied for so long. And that, in fact, is a legacy of this particular court system. The issue that the courts threw out involved a former district attorney in Philadelphia, a guy named Ronald Castile, who as DA fought against Abu-Jamal's appeals, and then he was later elected to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And as a member of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, he consistently denied various appeals that have been filed by Abu-Jamal. What the court did recently, the Superior Court, was perpetuate a lie that Castile had enunciated as far back as 1998. We talk about the big lie involving Donald Trump. Well, the big lie is firmly rooted in Abu-Jamal's case. In Pennsylvania, as well as most jurisdictions around the country, judges are supposed to recuse themselves, meaning judges are supposed to not rule on cases where their impartiality can be questioned. Clearly, with Mr. Castile, his impartiality could be questioned. While a candidate for both district attorney and a candidate for the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, he received support from the Fraternal Order of Police, the very organization that has worked strenuously to seek Abu-Jamal's execution, and then subsequent to that, to make sure that he stayed in jail for his natural life. Castile's contention is that as district attorney, he never learned about any of the facts in the case. Let me repeat that, because that is so preposterous, you really need to hear it again. He says that as district attorney, he found and received no information about the case. The fact that he signed his name on court filings from his office during his term as district attorney was only done as an administrative matter. He never read them. That is just absolute foolishness. However, that is what the courts have sanctioned. Shortly after Mr. Castile became Justice Castile, there was an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer where they interviewed his top assistant. And that person said that Castile was involved in all death penalty matters that came through the office, and he was engaged with all high-profile cases that came through the office. Abu-Jamal's was a death penalty case, and clearly, with Abu-Jamal's case being the most renowned case in the history of Philadelphia, it was a high-profile case. So for him to contend that he did not know anything about it is preposterous. The Code of Conduct for Pennsylvania judges says that a judge who, and I'll read it to you, who has personal knowledge of disputed evidentiary facts concerning a proceeding should recuse himself. So under the standards, the law that applied to judges, Castile should have been off the case, but he stayed on the case. And Pennsylvania courts have continued to sanction that. Many of you know about the improprieties, the gross, vile improprieties of the original trial judge, Albert Sabo. And he continued on with this case with the sanction of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Sabo sat at the 1995 hearing involving Abu-Jamal, and he denied all of Abu-Jamal's appeal issues. Sabo's conduct in 1995 was so outrageous that Philadelphia's normally hostile media against Abu-Jamal started criticizing Sabo, saying that his behavior confirms the criticisms of Abu-Jamal's supporters. When that matter came up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in 1998, when they issued their ruling, the ruling criticized Sabo, but contended that all of his outrageous conduct was a result of him being badgered by Abu-Jamal's defense attorneys. Again, another preposterous proposition. Mr. Castile, when he said that he did not or would not step away from the case, recuse himself, he said it was unfair for Abu-Jamal to criticize his association receiving money, campaign support, and other backing from the Fraternal Order of Police. He said it was unfair to criticize him when 4 other members of the court received similar kind of backing from the Fraternal Order of Police. So there you had 5 members of a 7-member court in the pocket of the very entity that hates Abu-Jamal. Again, this corrupts justice in any way, shape, or form, but that's what has happened with this case. I just want to run through one scenario to really show you the seamlessness of the judicial bias against Abu-Jamal. During the trial, the prosecutor engaged in improper procedures in terms of selecting the jury. there was clear bias when you look at the composition of the jury that had very few African Americans on the court from a city where African Americans were a substantial number of the population. In 1995, Abu-Jamal's defense team attempted to present evidence that showed improprieties in jury selection. Judge Sabo denied their efforts to put this information on the record. And it got so intense where one of Abu-Jamal's attorneys actually got into an argument with the judge saying that we need to present this evidence. The judge struck back by putting that lawyer in jail. Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, no harm, no foul, we're gonna let this go. Well, flash forward to when Abu-Jamal's appeals were at the federal appeals court level, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And that body faulted Abu-Jamal's defense for not presenting the evidence that Sabo blocked. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, one of the appeal issues that the appeal court put into the case on its own motion was Sabo's misconduct. So here there was evidence, clear evidence, that Sabo blocked the very evidence that the court said that should have been presented. And since it wasn't presented, then Abu-Jamal was not entitled to any relief. So at various levels over various years, we find courts bending and breaking the law. And that's the reason why we are here today, because Mr. Abu-Jamal remains incarcerated and has never received the relief that he should have received. I'll just wrap up there. If there are any questions or any concerns, I'll try to be responsive to that.
Yeah, we thank you for that, Lynn, for always being responsive. You have been really a champion of what it really means to observe and execute journalism to the highest standard. And so we definitely appreciate all that you've done over the past 40 years as well to support Mumia Abu-Jamal, but more importantly, to uphold and uplift the truth in this case. We're checking now to see if there are any questions from the audience. There might be one, I believe, here. For you, Lynn, where does this case stand now, given the recent denial by the Superior Court?
Well, there's still appeal issues that can be raised. I'm not sure just the procedural posture in terms of the Superior Court's ruling. Will it be appealed to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court? But after that matter is handled, either rejected or accepted, then there's another round of appeals that will be coming forward that will bring up material or more material that was discovered in the DA's office by the current DA, Larry Krasner. Let's understand a few things. Mr. Krasner has overturned the convictions of about 27 people. And in each one of those persons that were wrongfully convicted, some serving 20, 30 years in jail, we find improprieties by police and prosecutors, the very things that are elements in Abu-Jamal's case. The fact that the district attorney of Philadelphia found this information that had been stashed in the DA's office should have automatically, in the interest of justice, brought Abu-Jamal either back into court or just released him completely from prison, which they have done in the past. So let's just say the appeals are continuing, and as came up, the phrase that came out of Mozambique, a luta continua, the struggle continues to get justice for Abu-Jamal.
That's right. I want to get, if we can, maybe to one or two more questions, if we could, in the short period of time that we have left. This question, I think, is a really good one, which is probably up your alley as well. What can we do to get the Black press to lift up Mumia's case as a matter of principle?
Very easily. Badger the editors and the publishers of the Black press. The press coverage of Mumia Abu-Jamal's case, both in the Black press as well as in the so-called mainstream media, has been a mile wide in terms of, there's been a lot, but it's been an inch thick in terms of the depth and the analysis that has been brought forward. But I would also urge folks to continue to utilize social media and to be able to tell the story with the information that you have, unfiltered by other editors, be they Black press editors or white press editors.
Okay, I'll try to get to one more question. And I think this question kind of stands to what you were talking about earlier with the DA. The next time that this case is tried in common pleas court, will Krasner, DA Krasner, be the prosecutor?
Well, Mr. Krasner has been reelected. He has another 4-year term. So if the case comes, the appeals come up in Philadelphia court during that 4-year span, then Krasner's office will be the ones that handle it, and Krasner will be the man pulling the strings on this. It's just amazing where a person who has established a record of being a progressive DA, a person who has received a lot of criticism for trying to turn injustice into justice, would take such a regressive and anti-justice stance in the Abu-Jamal case. He is rightfully vilified for his inaction in the Abu-Jamal case. When you look at the filings that have come out of his office, they have essentially taken the anti-Abu-Jamal filings for going back to Ed Rendell, all the way coming forward, including those in the Castile era, and just amplified them a little bit with more misinformation.
That's right.
So it's really outrageous what he's doing, and he needs to be criticized all day, every day, in every forum, and called to account. He may not be able to change it, but you can call it out, and that will be a part of his legacy. Stained.
That's right. That's right. For my final question to you, Lynn, before I let you go and get to our next panelist, this question is, what are some good source books or material for people to learn more about this legal history of this case? I'm not sure if you can share any books or material.
Sure. One of the easiest and quickest ways to find out not only about the case, the factual side, but also the legal machinations, is to read the Amnesty International report that came out in February of 2000. It's easily available online. Just put in Mumia Abu-Jamal Amnesty International, and you'll get it. It's a 35-page report, real easy read, quick read. More in-depth would be Dave Lindorf's book, I think it's called Killing Time. That came out in the early 2000s. But so between those two sources and the Amnesty book, Amnesty report, you can get a real short form, real in-depth understanding of what the issues are in this case. And I would also like to add my good friend and a person who's done incredible work on this, Michael Schiffman in Germany. He has really picked this case apart and just
every piece of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
So thank you so much, Lynn Washington Jr.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, and always for your just ongoing support of Mumia Abu-Jamal, specifically on this date, December 9th, 1981 to now, 2021. Thank you as always. You've been really a source of motivation and inspiration and truth as we fight on towards Mumia Abu-Jamal's release. Thank you everybody as well for providing some questions and thoughts in the comments. We hope to get to some of these questions also throughout the evening. So please feel free to keep sharing. There will be moments where the comments will be enabled for you guys and for you folks and family members to share your thoughts, questions, and ideas. We definitely want to get to our next panelists. and see if we can get to our next speaker. And this person, really means so much to many of us who have been doing this work for so long. Jalil Muntaqim. Jalil has been one of the longest held political prisoners in the world, having been incarcerated since 1971. He is free now, and we are so happy that he is home with his comrades and family. Jalil Abdul Muntaqim is a member of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army. He was released from prison on October 7th, 2020, after over 49 years of incarceration and 11 parole denials. A former member of the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army, he has been a critical influence in the development of revolutionary consciousness in the United States. He is the author of We Are Our Own Liberators, Selected Prison Writings, a collection of essays that he wrote while in prison. And I must also add that he is a key organizer from the inside and the outside of the Jericho movement, which has been so critical to the liberation of our political prisoners. So with that being said, let's bring on our brother, Jalil Muntaqim. Peace, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I want to thank this opportunity to share some ideas and thoughts and thinking in the spirit of Mandela, in the spirit of Abu-Jamal, Mumia. I think it is important for us to begin this conversation with a little reading. And the reading I'm going to read today is genocides, right? It's important for me to start there because it's a historic thing happened in October of the 25th. The International Convention on the Prevention of Punishment of Crime and Genocides, Article 2 states, in the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part the national, ethnic, racial, or religious group, such as 1, killing members of the group, 2, causing serious bodily or mental harm to the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions that life calculated to bring about its physical destruction and whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, and forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Article 3 states, the following shall be punishable: genocides. 2, conspiracy to commit genocides. 3, direct and public incitement to commit genocides. 4, attempt to commit genocides. And 5, the complicity in genocides. On October 25th, 2021, international jurists found the United States guilty of all counts of charges of genocide. It's important for us to understand that. Mumia Abu-Jamal is confronting genocides. Imam Jamil Al-Amin confronting genocides. Leonard Peltier confronting genocides. All our comrades inside the prison system, and many of those in mass incarceration, are confronting the issues of genocide. They have been engaging in this practice of genocide for over 400 years. Right? We are finally catching up to this reality. On December 17th, 1951, the great Paul Robeson and William Patterson were the first to bring the charge of genocide to the United States, to the United Nations. And in the course of that, they were hounded by the FBI. We were successfully able to bring these charges to the international jurors and have a guilty verdict rendered. And it's important for us to raise this question today because from this day forward, we're changing the narrative. We are changing the narrative of our conditions here in the United States, Black, brown, and indigenous people. We are changing. We're no longer engaged in the issues of civil rights. We are now engaged in the issues of human rights. And the question of our human rights is based upon we have been confronted with genocides from day one. Day one, right? Our problem, for the most part, and I say our problem, right, talking as a people, is that we've been so colonized in our minds and our thinking that we have accepted these conditions as normal. We have been normalized in the condition of our own colonization and our own capacity to even be complicit to a certain degree in our own genocide, to the degree to where our own colonization, what we need to do is decolonize our thinking in terms of our relationship to the United States, the corporate government of the United States. We have not done that yet. We're still in the process of doing that. And the form of decolonization is a process of liberating our minds, all right? So we're not there yet, but we're in the process. And so I am raising these questions. I have to, out of necessity, right? Not only for myself, but for my great grandkids, right? How are they going to live? How are they going to live in a system from which has been promoting white supremacy, right? And naturally, white supremacy means that it is against black people, brown people, indigenous people, right? Let me make this point also clear. White supremacy is an aberration. Anytime you have a people that believe themselves to be superior to any other people on the planet, they're crazy. And we're not treating it like that, right? They have a God consciousness. They got a problem, right? And we have not accepted that idea, that reality, that white supremacy is an aberration, right? In human society, in our civilization, right? So we have to raise ourselves up, right? When the issues of talking about Black Lives Matter, Black lives always matter, right? But not to white people. That's a problem. And so we have to raise the issues of Black Lives Matter to ourselves, and begin to process decolonizing our thinking, our minds, in regards to how we have identified ourselves, right? We've been called everything under the sun except for a child of God by white supremacists. So now's the point where we need to identify ourselves. Who do we identify ourselves? How do we identify ourselves? Me, myself, personally, I identify myself as a New African. I'm divorcing myself from any idea of being part of America, period. Right? Period. Can we raise ourselves in that kind of thinking? Can we build ourselves in that kind of independent thinking? Right? Can we separate ourselves mentally, psychologically from the idea of being, quote unquote, American, African American? Can we do that? That is a process. Right? And so here I am today raising these questions to you in the spirit of Mandela, in the spirit of Mumia Abu-Jamal, right? Who identifies themselves, right, as New African, right? Who identifies themselves not in accordance to the ideas of being a, quote, African American, right? And that's a process. We're in that process. As a result of the genocide verdict, we will be moving towards building what we call a People's Senate. That's our next step, right? And we enjoin all of you listening here, nationally and internationally, to support the endeavors that we will be moving forward in terms of the People's Senate. Extremely important, right? Second of all, as you well know what happened on January 6th of this year, right? When white supremacists stormed Congress, right? They essentially made a point towards moving towards a declaration of war, right? To again reassert the idea of white supremacy. And in order for them to be successful in doing that, that means they have to kill black people, or or increase the number of decreasing the lives of black people in this country. Right? We're not prepared. We don't understand the depth of what they are talking about. And if this idiot Trump runs again in 2024, this country will split in half. We have to be prepared for that. We are telling the international community that we need their support, right? Martin Luther King once stated that the United States is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. Dr. King said that, right? This is the individual who they have made a national holiday. Said the United States is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. In essence, that the United States, the public citizenship of this corporate government have blood on their hands, both in treasure and in blood, by sending their children to these imperialist wars around the world. And the world is waiting for us to decide what we're going to do. The world is asking, what's going on in America? What's going on with black people? How are they allowing this to happen? Right? So we have to understand our situation in the historical context, both on a national and international perspective. Right? And so my position is this here. If we are fighting in the belly of the beast, right, then we are the vanguard. And the international community is the rear guard that needs to support us in the struggle. Right? If we are the tip of the spear, then the international community is the shaft of that spear. Understand my point, right? The world is waiting for us to determine our future, and in essence, doing so, determine the future of the planet. Right? Corporate America has destroyed the planet. Right? They're destroying the future of all of us. right? And so as we laud and we applaud and we fight for the release of Mumia Abu-Jamal, right? We have to really begin to look at the processes from which we can free ourselves, right? Free ourselves, right? As I said in my book, We Are Our Own Liberators. Take that to heart. Thank you for having this opportunity for me to speak to you today, right, and share these ideas. Probably for a lot of you think they're wild ideas. In certain instances, they are. Why? Because they are ideas about freedom, right? They're ideas about liberation, right? We have to become emancipators, we have to become abolitionists, and we have to become liberators. And when I say abolitionists, I mean abolish everything and anything that's anti-Black, anti-brown, anti-Indigenous people. Abolish it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Jalil. I mean, that was just everything right now for all of us. Those ideas we will be jumping on and moving forward with. We're so happy to have you tonight, and we're gonna keep this program moving. So yes, our next speaker is Julia Wright. So Julia Wright is the daughter of Richard Wright, and who worked on Nkrumah's Ghana as a journalist for the anti-colonial and anti-neo-colonial liberation movements represented there. She co-founded the International Solidarity Committee for Mumia and political prisoners and founded the Mumia Health Committee. Julia, we're happy to have you. There you go.
Poem. For 300 years, so many unnamed were lynched, as Ida says, dismembered, burned, buried in bitter waters, our inland middle passage, leaving deliberately planned, insufficient evidence. Every day for 65 fighting years, we carried Emmett's face in our hearts, while a former beauty queen, grown old, confessed at last to a lie that unspeakably raped a child of his innocence and the remainder of his years. Yes, but when it mattered, she refused to testify. So whiteness oblige, the case is now closed due to insufficient evidence. And you, Mumia, it's been 40 forever years doing time, during which time hidden boxes of proof of your innocence grew moldy in the darkness of the prosecutor's cupboard. No wonder they maintained there was insufficient evidence. Is our Black evidence a right that no white man is bound to respect? Our Black truth hidden from the light of day, shredded, stolen, suppressed, buried like so many of our disappeared bones, may have lain fallow underground, but no longer, not after 300 years, not after 65 years, not after 40 years. From now on, our firsthand testimony will prevail at last, immediately, tomorrow. And as Richard says, the world will judge the judges. Mumia is the voice of the voiceless. Today, may the voiceless become his character witnesses. Speaking about Emmett, there is a young boy, aged 23, in Martinique, the land of Frantz Fanon. This boy was tortured by the French military police last year, and he barely survived. Mumia heard about him and wrote about him, dedicated a commentary called Environmental Racism. And Kezia, one of the voiceless, has written back to thank Mumia. I quote an excerpt of his letter. Mumia is one of those who has shown us the way ahead. His message is that freedom and justice are not offered, but conquered. We are the ones who must put an end to this cycle of oppression. We can no longer wait for the other side to proffer with the great show of leniency a travesty of justice. We will no longer tolerate that our leaders, our thinkers, our warriors be incarcerated till death follows. We must produce freedom with our bare hands rather than receive it from the hands of others. This is a 23-year-old who is growing blind in one eye from torture. From Cayenne, in the French colony of Guyana, he's called Apa Mumia Makeba. He is the secretary of the Union of Guyanese Workers. He invited Ramona to visit his island. He writes, when Mumia was sentenced to die, it took many united forces of many countries. The fragility of the United States is a consequence of international solidarity. The movement for international reparations in France, the very same movement that has opened a historic tribunal in Martinique to demand reparations from France for the crime against humanity that was slavery and the slave trade and the forms that continue of slavery. That movement writes, quote, Ramona, Pam, and Mumia belong to those great emissaries who breathe life into the struggle within the cosmic battle that is not sparing our world. Respect to you. May you have life, strength, and health to pursue your mission through life. And last of all, please listen to this message and who signs it. Quote, Mumia, you continue to show the world that your courage, morality, and integrity far exceeds that of the people responsible for your imprisonment and inhumane treatment. We know their hatefulness. We will not be silenced about their viciousness. We will not stop demanding your immediate and unconditional release. Do not give up, neither will we. Signed, Wendell Griffin, pastor, New Millennium Church, circuit judge, 6th Judicial Circuit, Little Rock, Arkansas. He is an elected Black judge in a Ku Klux Klan Southern state. Thank you. He's listening.
Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing that. And thank you for those authentic and honest testimonies, all stories that connect to the overall story of Mumia Abu-Jamal, imprisonment, and the atrocities going on really across the world. I want to share next, our next speaker, somebody who's very, very close to us as well. You know, when it comes to the family and lineage of Mumia Abu-Jamal, he has been ever present the entire time. And somebody who you've seen speaking at previous events for the past several years, but more importantly, as he travels coast to coast, his message is one of how can we unify to bring his grandfather home. So with that being said, we want to bring on Mumia Abu-Jamal's grandson, Jamal Jr. Peace, bro. Good seeing you. Look forward to hearing your words.
What's going on, everybody? I know this is it is an anniversary, but unlike an anniversary of celebration, it's an anniversary that we need to think about, like how do we get one of our political prisoners. Right. So today is the 40th year of capture from my grandfather, political prisoner Mumia Abu-Jamal. We all know that it's 40 years too long, and the oppressors are aware of Mumia's power. His voice, you want to hear him. You know that man with the deep voice on the radio. Like, I get it. Yeah, you want to hear him. He's has a voice that makes it hard to turn down, and you can't change the station. Yeah, I get that. You know, he has a voice that makes you want to hear, but it's his intention that makes you want to listen. 40 years ago, the oppressors sought to silence him permanently. They sought to use a kangaroo court presided over by a known racist, Albert Sabo. This racist sentenced my grandfather, a journalist, to death. Yeah, he was to be executed, but the people fought and held him tight, supported him in the streets from Philly to France and back again. And the people pulled and dragged him from the clutches of death row. It's the people that claim Mumia as their own. The people deemed Mumia's fate was not to be executed by a corrupt state. It's 40 years. It's your support, your resolve that keeps Mumia's voice alive. The case and sentencing of Mumia is a catalyst for police violence and a criminal justice system. Like many before and so many after, my grandfather is a victim of racism in the United States. Racism that they want you to ignore, racism that they don't want to confront. The sentencing of Mumia Abu-Jamal is riddled with racism. Racism that they can't erase. Going forward, we will all fight for the freedom of Mumia Abu-Jamal. If you marched in the streets shouting in defense of Black lives, you should be in the streets shouting in defense of Mumia. If you are against racism, against police brutality, against white supremacy, against police injustice, you should be for the exoneration of Mumia Abu-Jamal. Because I guarantee you, it's racism that keeps Mumia behind bars and without freedom. I guarantee police brutality thrives off the imprisonment of Mumia Abu-Jamal. I guarantee white supremacists and people's values, they're adamant on keeping Mumia imprisoned. The power of the people pulled him from death row. The love of the people keeps him sane and keeps him active and keeps him fighting for all of us. And now it's time for the will of the people to free Mumia Abu-Jamal and all political prisoners.
Thank you, Jamal Jr. That was amazing. We thank you for representing and for always being strong in this in these times. So before I bring up our next speaker, I just wanted to bring up the name of Dr. Johanna Fernandez, who could not be with us tonight. We pray for her renewed health and we send her love, and we continue to do this work in the streets as she would be doing at this moment. So our next speaker really needs no introduction. We're talking about the one and only Pan Africa, warrior Pam. Pam has always put this movement on her back. Pam has always been a tireless fighter from the very beginning. And she is here today to speak with us, to continue to pour fire within us to continue this fight, because we're bringing Mumia home. Pam, you're on. Give us one moment as we're working on the sound.
So we're working on sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody, for joining us. Thank you again for everybody who is on right now on the Zoom, on YouTube, and on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us for the past hour. We're really having a powerful conversation, and we have actually much more to come as we work to get Pam back on with her audio. We'll keep moving forward. Pam, you there?
I do believe so.
Okay, we hear you now. We hear you now. Go ahead,
Ain't no
Pam.
stopping us now.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pam.
I am truly energized, more, tonight, listening to, all the evidence, but I was thinking, one thing these people has done, they have given us a lot of, evidence. And to bring this, remember, it was this government who clearly stated that, they were going to kill Mumia. But by the unity and, people pulling together, we have been able to beat these people down. Presidents throughout the United States, old presidents, came together with governors and, high, flanking, I can't think, Howard Stern and 60 Minutes and all. We defeated all of them. We knocked them down, by being able to present the truth and pull Mumia off of death row. And during all these years, is something that sticks in my voice. When Senator Dole passed today, I remember him saying that what they were going to do is to, if Mumia got a trial, Mumia would be released. Maureen Faulkner, Mrs. Pokovich, and she has been saying for years and years that if Mumia got a trial, he would be released. People understand what she's saying, that we have the evidence to bring Mumia home. But what they are doing is stopping the evidence from going forth. And we must demand that, even Miss Faulkner, the only reason why we're here for 40 years is because they have been stopping Mumia from having a trial. Let's make it clear. Mumia has never had a trial, and Mumia was railroaded from day one. What we're demanding is the release of Mumia based on the evidence that's before them. They're the ones who is stopping, this from going on. We're here 40 years, because, they refuse to do what they say that they've done. We're constantly saying, bring Mumia home and have a, give a fair, give a trial. They're saying that Mumia is guilty, but they don't want to allow a situation to happen where that can be proven. So, we must, all the evidence that's needed for this, we have it in movies, we have it in audio, we have it in video, we have it in documentaries, we have it in years of Zoom calls with nothing but evidence. And there was a movie that was done by Mr. Ty Gray Hill, who stated very clearly he was going to prove that Mumia was guilty and he killed Faulkner. It never happened. But Professor Johanna Fernandez, and we must pray, for her as well. She did a documentary film, Justice on Trial. There was other films that was done, Case for Reasonable Doubt, and that played around the world that has raised the awareness of people. It is these people who say that there are millions for Mumia, and they can't understand why. And all these, through a pandemic, all that we have been through, and here we are now raising Mumia again to millions around the world, because you have few that's right here, but there are people that's around the world that are pushing this. So I'm saying we're not without. We're with the ability to bring Mumia home. With the ability, we stopped him from being executed, something that they never thought. People thought it would never happen, but it did. And they've tried to kill Mumia on several occasions. And, I want to thank Brother Jackie from France, and I can't think of the other brother that came from France, with him, and who went to visit Mumia yesterday and brought us the pictures of Mumia. One with the two of them, and I don't know whether we have them to show people. And Mumia standing there 40 years later after all that he went through, and he say the reason why that happened is because of the people who pulled together and refused to let it go. The reason why he was able to go through all that he had gone through inside them prisons was because of the love of the people. So let's continue that love. Let's continue that fight, because they can't stop us. We are bringing Mumia home.
That's right, Pam. That's right. Thank you so much for those words. Thank you, Pam, for sharing that. We always appreciate.
Once again, I need to cut in. Mumia called today. My son Kevin Patton, turned 54 today. For 40 years, my son has endured us in the fight for Mumia. His birthday, from the time he turned 14, has been we've always focused on Mumia and him. And I just want to give a shout out to a person that a lot of people don't know, who has been here for Mumia. I want to give a shout out real quick to Veronica Jones, who yesterday was the anniversary of her death. A young woman, who stood for Mumia, who went to jail. Just a shout out, to these people, and if people get a chance, look at all the documentaries and things that we have out, and you also should look at the story of Veronica Jones. Thank you. On the move. Happy birthday, Kevin.
Thank you, Pam, and happy birthday, Kevin, as well. Kevin, we always see as well. Pam's son is always out and about with us as well, supporting. So thank you, and happy birthday to you, Kevin. We want to move forward, and this next person on the agenda actually is somebody also very near and dear to this movement, to free Mumia Abu-Jamal. Good brother, good friend of ours, Brother Oware Osayande. Brother Oware Osayande is a poet, activist, and author of several books, including his latest collection of poetry, Black Phoenix Uprising. Black Phoenix Uprising. Definitely pick it up. We want to salute you, brother, for always being, forward with the good word and using poetry, using art as a weapon for liberation. So give thanks, Brother Oware. The floor is yours.
Thank you. And it's good to be here, and in fact, an honor to be here with all of you joining tonight to call for Mumia's freedom from all over the world. I was just 12 years old when he was sentenced to death. The city of Philadelphia claimed he murdered a police officer, yet ballistic evidence and eyewitness testimony say that is not possible. In a system truly founded on principles of justice and equality, Mumia would have never served a day in prison for a crime he could not have committed. But this is the US. And here in the US, any damn thing can happen to you, especially if you are Black. And Mumia is not only Black, he is a former member of the Black Panther Party. He is a Black revolutionary who has used these 40 years behind prison walls to write books that have exposed the criminal justice system for the deadly fraudulent system that we now know it to be. He's a statesman for the voiceless who has garnered the attention and respect of leaders all around the world. To read Mumia's words, searing in their truth, radiant in their eloquence, uncompromising in their love for the people, you will understand. Once you hear his voice echoing from numerous commentaries and hear that unmistakable baritone, unflinching in the conviction of our people's cause, you will understand why he embodies the best of our traditions of justice and liberation. What we know is that no prison can shut out his light. There are no chains that can shackle his will to be free. Because when we say free Mumia, we are saying free them all. When we say free Mumia, we speak with the certainty of our own lives and understanding that our freedom is tied to Mumia's. For these reasons, we will never be satisfied until our brother Mumia is free. This is called Black Phoenix Uprising. They say that we are magic when it's just us being who we are, scarred and Black. We are resilient as sun rays, no way to comprehend it. So we name it as God, yet we are the holy without the ghost. The evidence of things unseen, the spirit within us has no need to haunt. Black vortex of the inexplicable, the word made flesh, enchantments of the divine. We speak in tongues native and colonized, still conjure the voice, the force of creation. Like volcanoes erupt and we enunciate new worlds into being and name them all freedom, ancient as the pyramids. When we congregate, we come together not just to remember, but to resurrect the dead. We, the progeny of those that dared be free, who been to hell and came back smiling through bloody teeth. Black Phoenix uprising. We are an insurrection of fire, reborn from the bone embers of our ancestors, a righteous indignation igniting revolt in the minds of the assassinated. Dynamite exploding from our mouths, heat hollering past, hotness burning like the North Star. Though some of us were once tarred and feathered, we've been known to fly. Our wings span centuries. Talk to me of love, personified of a million Black souls reincarnated into the backbones of our sons and daughters, their freedom dreams etched into our genes, forged from centuries of revolt. A cauldron of liquid fire poured like a shaman's rum into these charmed skins. Epidermis of steel, melanated mutations, trauma alchemized to genius. Our badassness been long archived. No need for every episode to be televised when our revolution be satellite beamed from our eyes, bright as liberation yearning, smoldering a beauty that will leave the world blind. Whatever justice there is in this world comes from the kerosene flame burning within us, comes from our conviction like the match that strikes, the match that lights, the match that ignites our will to remake this world like we remake ourselves African again. Before the English, the Spanish, the Dutch, the German, the French, and the Portuguese, before we were chained in those ships, before Leo Africanus, when what we knew ourselves to be was the genesis of humanity, that indigenous spark that will remake this world. They say that we are magic, but that is just us being ourselves, scarred and Black. We are resilient as the sun rising. No way to comprehend it, so we name it God.
Okay, so we're gonna try to see if we can get that video back up, but in the meantime, we're going to get back to our speakers. But before I bring up the next speaker, I just wanted to say, Brother Sayande, that was a very moving poem. We thank you for your time and for what you do as a poet and an activist, and looking forward to reading some of your great books. So this next piece is centered around the international movement to free Mumia. The international movement to free Mumia has been going for so long from the very beginning, and it continues to grow wider and further. And so we have now Jackie Hartot, who is a co-coordinator of the French Free Mumia Collective, bringing together 100 organizations in France, as well as 25 municipalities. We also have with him his interpreter, Steve Zod, who is an ex-Amnesty International volunteer and defender of human rights with a long experience in anti-racist education. Thank you for joining.
Free hands. Nous sommes particulièrement heureux et très fiers d'être à vos côtés depuis tant d'années.
Dear friends, we are so happy to be here with you at this very moment and to have been with you for such a long time.
Pour combattre l'injustice et défendre la vie d'un homme emblématique, victime du racisme institutionnel et de son engagement social et politique en faveur des plus discriminés et des plus démunis.
To defend a man who is very, very clearly a victim of injustice and who has been for such a long time a motor for us and for our actions.
Ce combat que nous menons ensemble ne saurait connaître de répit tant que Mumia n'aura pas rejoint son épouse, ses enfants, ses petits-enfants et sa famille.
And what we are doing, what we are involved in, will not and cannot stop until Mumia has seen again his wife and children after his release.
Tant de souffrance et de séparation depuis 4 décennies.
So much suffering since 4 decades.
Ça n'a que trop duré, comme nous le clamons aujourd'hui avec vous à l'occasion de l'anniversaire de son arrestation.
This being the anniversary of his arrest, the only thing that we can say is this has gone on far too long.
Les dirigeants de Pennsylvanie, avec la complicité de l'État fédéral, sont responsables de cette terrible injustice.
The leaders of Pennsylvania and the federal institutions are directly responsible for this injustice.
À défaut de la réparer, le gouverneur de Pennsylvanie, comme sa fonction lui en donne le pouvoir, peut et doit y mettre un terme en le libérant sans condition.
It is absolutely essential, rather than hiding away, postponing, and so on, that Mumia should be released by the authorities.
C'est ce qu'ont crié hier soir les soutiens français devant l'ambassade des États-Unis à Paris.
This is what we were proclaiming yesterday at the Place de la Concorde in Paris, in front of the American Embassy.
C'est ce que la maire de Paris exprimera demain lors de la célébration du 20e anniversaire de la citoyenneté d'honneur décernée à Mumia par la capitale de la France.
And this is going to be fortified tomorrow by what the mayor of Paris is going to say about Mumia Abu-Jamal, who tomorrow will be, after 20 years as an honorary citizen of Paris, he will be honored again by representatives from our movement who are invited to the Paris City Hall for this event, which will feature Mumia Abu-Jamal, who was the first honorary citizen of Paris, as well as other honorary citizens, and will be attended by human rights organizations in France.
À cette occasion, Mumia a fait parvenir un message audio aux élus de Paris et à la centaine d'invités présents lors de cet événement demain.
For this event tomorrow, Mumia has prepared a speech which he has himself recorded and which will be read out in front of the mayor of Paris, the 100 or so elected officers of the city of Paris, and those representing human rights organizations.
Sachez encore que ces derniers jours, des milliers de soutiens français ont adressé des mails au gouverneur Tom Wolfe pour demander la libération, exiger la libération de Mumia.
And you should know that in these last few days, thousands of French citizens, members of our collective or not, have sent an email to Tom Wolfe.
Tom Wolfe.
Yeah, have sent an email to Tom Wolfe demanding the release of Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Un dernier mot pour vous dire notre joie d'avoir rencontré Mumia hier à Mahanoï.
And just a last word to tell you of our extreme joy at having been able to spend 3 hours with Mumia at Mahanoï yesterday.
Il nous a dit aller bien mieux du côté de sa santé et se sentir revivre enfin.
He said, and it was quite evident looking at him, that he's feeling so much better. His strength has come back to him, and the sparkle was there in his eyes.
Il nous a dit aussi qu'il s'était remis à écrire.
He also told us that he has started writing again.
Qu'il suivait avec intérêt la situation internationale, la pandémie de Covid qui fait tant souffrir les peuples et plus encore les plus pauvres.
And he also talked about his interest and the way that he follows what is happening at the moment with the COVID pandemic and how this is especially affecting the citizens of the poorer countries. And is that not typical of Mumia Abu-Jamal, stuck in his prison, to be thinking about poor people in other countries who are not getting enough help and are not being vaccinated?
Nous voulons vous dire enfin notre peine d'avoir dû le quitter après 3 heures de visite en le laissant entre les mains de ses geôliers.
It was with great sadness that after 3 hours, we had to leave Mumia in the hands of his jailers.
Vive la solidarité internationale.
Long live international solidarity.
Vive le combat universel pour la défense des droits humains.
Long live the universal fight for human rights.
Abolition de la peine de mort aux États-Unis et partout dans le monde.
The abolition of the death penalty in the United States of America and everywhere in the world.
Free Mumia now.
I won't translate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was amazing. So powerful to have the international presence, not only internationally known and doing great things from friends to all over Mexico, but to also have that presence with Mumia and in Philadelphia. So again, thank you, Jackie, and all the French collective that has continued to fight for Mumia. So we had a message from Michael Schiffman, but we're having some issues with the video, so you can definitely check out his message on mobilization for Mumia website. Is it website? The website. And hopefully you'll enjoy that great message that Michael had for us who could not be with us this evening in person here. So next we have another part of our international segment, a message from Catalina Saldana. And Catalina is with Amigos de Mumia, and I will be reading that message in 1 second. Okay. Greetings from Mexico to all of you in Philadelphia and the international movement engaged in this 40-year struggle to free Mumia Abu-Jamal. Here, there were demonstrations back in the 90s as part of a worldwide movement of people who knew that Mumia should have never spent a day in jail for a crime he did not commit. On December 11th, 1999, during a long strike at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM, 98 students were captured, tortured, and held for 3 days after marching to the US Embassy and protesting the death penalty imposed on Mumia Abu-Jamal, among other motives. They were finally released after taking over the prison yard and holding demonstrations there. In April of 1999, SCI Marcos of the ESLN wrote a long letter that began, "Dear Mr. Mumia," thus beginning a long history of Zapatista support for Mumia. Since December 9th, 2006, not a year has gone by without our presence outside the US Embassy. We deeply appreciate Mumia's support for our struggles in Mexico, including those of the Zapatistas, the Oaxaca Rebellion of 2007, the struggle for land threatened by an international airport in the small town of Atenco, and the struggle for the freedom of prisoners taken for defending water in the mountain town of San Pedro, Tlanixco. Apologies on my pronunciation here. In every case, Mumia joined with us in opposing the powers that be and the police who serve them. This year, we will be outside the US Embassy again on Saturday, December 11th, speaking about Mumia's history of struggle, the war against him, and the support of the international movement that has aided his resistance. We will be reading some of his writings out loud as we demand his exoneration and an end to his 40 years as a political prisoner. We will then move on to the Casa Ocupa Chiapas for a cultural event that will feature an exposition of engravings by Indios Lopez, the traditional music of La Mala Mata, the soul rap of Luna Negra, the poetry dance of Eva Palma, a performance of the Psychosoma Collective, the rebel rap of Gorilla Bang Bang, and the dance of Argelia Guerrero. At the same time that we demand freedom from Mumia Abu-Jamal, we will also be speaking about the situation that we're experiencing here, including the persecution of African and Haitian migrants in the country, recent acts of repression against movement activists, and the situation of political prisoners here in Mexico. Our comrades in Oaxaca and Tepec, Nayarit are acting for Mumia on December 9th, as are our feminist friends of Modas Chambeando. Mumia is an inspiration for us, and it is nothing short of amazing that he has been able to write 13 books from his prison cell. We have learned much from Mumia, the Black Panther activist, Mumia the historian, Mumia the political analyst, Mumia the revolutionary journalist, Mumia the social critic, Mumia the enemy of white supremacy, Mumia the forward thinker, and Mumia the brother who stands with us in our struggles and reminds us that no empire lasts forever. We also admire his tenacity in recovering from hepatitis C, glaucoma, cataracts, cirrhosis of the liver, COVID-19, and congestive heart failure. Movement support has been critical at every step of the way, as it is now when he must have a healthy diet to completely recover from his recent open heart surgery. We were not surprised to hear that the thugs in the Fraternal Order of Police were in the streets of Philadelphia today. There's only one reason that Mumia Abu-Jamal has been a prisoner for 40 years, and that's the power of the organized police over judges, district attorneys, and political officials. But their power must not and will not determine his future. They also swore that Assata Shakur, Sekou Odinga, Herman Bell, Jalil Muntakim, David Gilbert, and Russell Maroon Schultz would die in prison, but that didn't happen, did it? We have learned from you in Philadelphia and that Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf has the power to grant compassionate release to Mumia, and also that District Attorney Larry Krasner has the power to exonerate him. You tell us that he has exonerated at least 20 prisoners in circumstances similar to those of Mumia. We wholeheartedly agree that Wolf and Krasner must be pressured until they do right by Mumia. As we say, free Mumia, we also demand freedom for the longest held political prisoner in the United States, Rachel Magee, as well as Leonard Peltier, Dr. Matulu Shakur, Sundiata Akoli, Veranza Bowers, Kamal Siddiqui, Imam Jamil Alamin, Ed Poindexter, Jojo Bowen, Fred Mohammed Bowen, Reverend Joy Powell, and Kojo Umani Shakur. Here's in struggle, Catalina Saldana.
Thank you so much for that, Sophia. And thank you to all of the international supporters, those who have been doing actions and demos and protests this week, nationally in Houston, Texas, but also all around the world, as Sophia mentioned, in Mexico, also in Vienna, Austria, also in Germany, right? Also in France. Thank you all again for providing a good word, but also, pushing the line again that Mumia Abu-Jamal needs to come home. It needs to come home now. Thank you to all comments as well, who are saying free all political prisoners, including Sundiata Akoli, Rochelle McGee, and so many others that need to come home sooner than later. Today, we're demanding it. Next on our agenda, actually, it's very important in this movement to understand the work of leadership and how we incorporate an intergenerational movement. And we recently heard from Rock Nation artist out of Chicago, hip hop artist Vic Mensa, who was able to produce a short piece that he shared on his social media, his Instagram, writing a letter to Mumia Abu-Jamal, somebody who he's beginning to study now. And so we'll get to that video now and then transition to a very important special panel of youth and young organizers pushing the line for freedom, liberation, and to free all political prisoners.
Dear Mumia, peace. My name is Vic Mensa. I'm an artist from the south side of Chicago. I first learned of you through the pens of some of my favorite writers. I believe it may have been when Talib Kweli rhymed Kucha Chakalia with Free Mumia. Although I was aware of your incarceration since perhaps my preteen days, it wasn't until the firestorm of last year that I finally read your seminal master short automatic burst like a war correspondent on the front lines, which of course you are. In truth, it felt much like hip hop. What has been the role of writing in your survival, your fight to live in the heart of America's death machine? We must have the courage to believe in what we can't see if we are to create a future in which we can live. So my question to you is, what do you want to do when you come home? What world do you want to see? Maybe how is that different from the one you do see? And above all, what does true freedom look like to you? With revolutionary love, Vic Mensa.
Thank you for that. And with that being said, we want to begin to bring up some of our youth panelists, and we say free them all. And shout out and peace again to Vic Mensa for producing that short piece. We never know the work that we do as artists, entertainers, how that impact and influence can actually change the life of someone else. And so we want to actually bring up our next people, and as they are introduced, we'll bring them on here so people can see who they are. We'll start with Imat Quint. Imat Quint Concepcion is a Chamarita indigenous to the Mariana Islands, specifically Guahan and Saipan. Hopefully I said that right. They are an organizer, leader, and creative. They are coordinator for the In the Spirit of Mandela Coalition, which is building national and international awareness of the genocide inflicted every day on Black, Brown, Indigenous people in the United States. They are also a member of Oakland Jericho, a chapter of National Jericho, organizing for amnesty and freedom of political prisoners and prisoners of war. And Masakada Collective, a collective of the Chamorro diaspora fighting to unite, decolonize, and liberate the Mariana Islands. Welcome, Imak.
Thank you.
We also have TAG. TAG is an abolitionist committed to legalize slavery's demise. He is affiliated with the campaign to bring Mumia home, Root and Branch Collective, NYC, and In the Spirit of Mandela. Welcome, TAG.
Peace, peace. Greatly appreciated.
Next, we have Kevin Steele. Kevin is an abolitionist filmmaker with Root and Branch Collective, formerly known as IWOC NYC, campaigned to bring Mumia home, and member of the Media Committee for In the Spirit of Mandela. Kevin was formerly captured and began organizing while inside. While captured, he helped with the 2016 nationwide prison strike, as well as other resistance organizing. Upon his release, he has been a part of numerous actions against prisoner slavery, hyper-incarceration, from the 2018 nationwide prison strike up to the 2021 tribunal this past October. He continues to help organize in his Bronx neighborhood with youth basketball tournaments and sharing opportunities that he was deprived of. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. Peace, y'all.
Next, we have Cyrus Mayer from Oakland, Jericho. Cyrus Mayer is from the lands of the Ohlone people, Huchwin, now known as East Oakland, California. His mother's family is Russian Jewish, and his father's family is from Iraq. He is a member of the Jericho movement and an organizer for the In the Spirit of Mandela Coalition. He's currently working on the development of youth programs and curriculum on behalf of our freedom fighters behind the wall. He has also been active on various frontlines efforts from the NODAPL Standing Rock movement to the Occupy ICE LA encampments in 2018. Although he is 27 and in many ways no longer a youth, he is fresh to this work for our political prisoners and believes it is vital to raise youth awareness and participation within this movement. Free Mumia. Welcome, Cyrus.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next panelist on the youth panel is Kelsey Chaplin. Kelsey uses they, them pronouns, is an organizer with the Jericho Movement's Boston branch, where comrades have planned communities, political education, literary campaigns, and cultural events in the spirit of freeing all political prisoners. As a painter and printmaker, Kelsey contributes art to the movement as Jericho grows its presence in Boston. Kelsey is a resident of Boston and a teacher at an after-school program in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Welcome, Kelsey. Peace.
Peace all. Thanks for having me.
Next, we have Essence Gaines. Essence Gaines is from Philadelphia, is a future student of the world, has a passion for educating Black children, as well as unlearning and abolitioning systematic forms of oppression. She is inclined to learn more about political prisoners, both inside and outside of the Black Panther Party. Essence hopes to further the education of her third grade classrooms at the Catto STEM Pavilion, coming soon, by teaching them about the folks we will be talking to and about today. Welcome, Essence.
Peace, beautiful, intelligent people.
That's right. And then last but not least, we have Ann Sternberg. Ann Sternberg is a part of the Free Maroons Now Coalition, working previously on the campaign to free Russell Maroon Schultz, and now a campaign to free Kamal Siddiqui. She contributes to their legal medical research committee and has a special interest in interfaith alliances for political prisoners. Welcome to the space, Ann.
Thank you.
So we have a great lineup for you all this evening. And one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we can perhaps, with our tech team, make sure that we can bring in all the panelists as best we can, even if you have to shuttle them in and out, perhaps. I know that Zoom has a limitation on how many can be on screen at once, but we do want to get to everybody as best we can with these questions. And we do have a good variety of questions for you all. And I think as a start out for this question, and maybe we'll start with Tag on this, and it's something that we've talked about often. And obviously, when it comes to organizing in the space, the work yet ahead of us, it always kind of brings us to the question of, you know, when did you first join the struggle to free political prisoners and why?
Yeah, peace. Greatly appreciate the question, Brother Gabe. And it honestly, I can't quite call it, you know, specifically, but what I do know is it definitely stemmed from these heads that are veteran Panthers who, you know, I had the honor to be around, you know, at an earlier age, you know, particularly New York veteran Panthers, such as Brother Shep, you know, others who have been really going in on the political education for the longest, you know, and so really, and I also want to shout out the Morales Shakur Center, which was rooted in City College, uptown in Harlem. And that too was a space where you couldn't avoid the question of political prisoners and prisoners of war. And that's precisely, pardon me, that's precisely why these slavers shut that space down in a ridiculous raid and closed it up, because, you know, this was a space where community was meeting up with community and learning about ourselves, you know, in a concrete way. So yeah, I would have to put it at that, the Morales Shakur Center especially, but really just building with elders and veteran Panthers and others, you know, that have really just laid the groundwork out here.
Thank you for that. How about for you, Kelsey? When did you first begin joining this type of work, and why? What was the why for you?
I think the big why for me is that I've been in different organizing spaces for several years, but I've only been involved in the fight for political prisoners for the last year or so. And comrades of mine have always kind of spoke about how important it is to take care of our elders the way that they have taken care of us, and to respect the work that they've done. We have to fight to get them free. We can't espouse the efforts of Panthers, BLA, American Indian Movement without actively working to get them back on the outside, to get them back so that they can speak to us the way that they have always wanted to, and the way that they did before they were captured. Yeah, that's the big why for me.
Thank you. How about for you, Emma?
In January, I took Jilla Muntakim's class that he taught on We Are All Liberators. And in that class, he talked about political prisoners and his experiences and the importance of of joining the struggle to free them, and had mentioned, you know, if you're an abolitionist or you're a revolutionary or you're an activist or you're an organizer and you're actively in activity to abolish this enemy of ours, you're at risk of being a political prisoner. And he was just like, so not only is fighting for political prisoners, supporting them and freeing them, but it's also, you know, supporting yourself and supporting your comrades and supporting your cadre. I was like, oh dang, like that's 100%, 1000% right. Let me tap in. And then he got me into In the Spirit of Mandela, which got me into Oakland Jericho. But before that, when I took his class, I started writing to political prisoners through another organization that I was a part of, and just wrote to veterans of the Black Panther Party and Black Liberation Army. And then it just went from there.
Indeed. How about for you, Kevin? What was your why to get involved in this type of work?
I was listening to Vic's message just now, his letter to Mumia, and it sparked an idea in mind with similarities with Tupac. Tupac's song, he has this song called White Man's World. I think it's something like that. I know towards the ending of the audio, he basically says, "This goes out to my OGs, Matula Shakur, Geronimo Pratt, Mumia Abu-Jamal, He like mentions off a bunch of political prisoners. And as a kid, I used to love saying that. I didn't even know probably the name. I wasn't probably saying it right, but it was just mad cool to me. And I think that subconsciously always like helped and always like was inside of me. And fast forward, I got arrested. I was sentenced as an adult for 10 years. I'm on Rikers Island, and I'm like meeting a bunch of like God bodies, Nation of Gods on Earth, and they're giving me different pamphlets. I feel like everybody that's like from my generation or like one before me, we have this when you go to jail, the Malcolm X thing, right? You got to read the dictionary, you got to read every book in the library. You have to do all these things that Malcolm did. Some people don't do it. I didn't read the whole dictionary, but you either go with it or you like fall back. And my love for books since a kid like helped me like just take all this information that the elders was giving me, and that just like was like a trickle effect until when I went up north, I got in tune with like organizing. I'm still reading different lectures on different like revolutionary people. Malcolm X led to like Stokely Carmichael at the time, what I was introduced to him as. Now Kwame Ture is what I call him, and a Black Panther Party, and the way they were speaking was similar to the way me and my friends were speaking. It was just that they was really beefing with police, and that was like that was it for me. So, and I reached out to someone else inside the facility that I was in, and they brought it to me because they know I was organizing, and they was like, I think we made a mistake. I think they meant to write you. So I wrote back with IWOC at the time, and we started. And so like that, I met Tag and stuff like that. Go ahead though. I would go. A short story could be long.
That's great. And I think that we want to spend time on this question because it's very important to us as activists and organizers, how people get involved, right? What's the spark? What's the start, right? So we really want to hear everybody's story. We may not hit everybody for the forthcoming questions, but this first question is very important because everybody's beginning, everybody's entryway is different. And so it's very important for us to learn what that was so we can begin to organize better as we go forward to 2022 and to beyond. So let's bring on Cyrus with the same question and then bring on Ann and Essence onto the page as well. So go ahead, Cyrus.
Peace, y'all. Thank you. Honored to be here. I think for me, it started, I would have to say at a young age, just from experience, from having a lot of my friends growing up get put into the system and seeing that at a young age and seeing the injustice around me that my friends and really family were experiencing in Oakland. We grew up in Oakland. We definitely idolize the Black Panthers and Huey and look up to them and that time frame in particular, what was going on in that time. So I've always held a lot of respect in my heart for the people doing the work in the 60s and 70s and seen that as a source of inspiration. Also growing up in San Francisco, we always had these signs, free Leonard, all over the bridge in different areas. And I always would ask my mom, like, who is this Leonard? Like, who is that? And it wasn't years later, really. She told me a little, but years later, when I went to Standing Rock, that was when I really started learning about Leonard Peltier and the American Indian movement and the incredible work that they've done protecting their communities. So I think that a lot of that was a lot of my involvement with this movement has stemmed from my respect to the elders and to the people that have put that work in and have suffered one of the ultimate prices of being incarcerated for so long. I think that I think that a lot of times I've been frustrated in a lot of my spaces that I've organized in because we run into a lot of issues all the time. And I really have a strong desire to listen and learn from the past, from the experiences of people who've been through this. So I think that's another part. But one of the biggest inspirations was actually my cousin Elijah, who was a part of Jericho, and he invited me to come on this past year. And so I was able to join and then get involved with the Spirit of Mandela Tribunal. So yeah, I think all those things come together and have put me into this work for our political prisoners and for Mumia and all of our great people that's been locked up for so long. So yeah, that's what I got right now.
Thank you, Cyrus. Appreciate it. If we could bring on either, Ann and Essence, our tech team, if we can bring them on, that'd be great. We might have to replace maybe a couple just due to the Zoom limitations on the boxes and the screen in front of us. But let's get to Essence and Ann, please. If we could do that.
Right.
Real quick, before you get started, Essence, we need to make sure that you're on screen first, though. I think that I'm not sure if you're actually on screen. Are you on screen?
Yes.
Can folks see Essence on their screen in front of them? I just want to check. That's probably a no, correct? No, yeah. I think that we need to replace a couple. So if we can do that, that would be fantastic.
Brother Gabe, it looks like
They're on.
Yeah, looks like
The audience is, yes.
Okay, so go ahead, Sophia.
Okay, great. Guys, thank you again for those great answers. So the next question here that we have is, when did you first join the struggle to free political prisoners of war, and why? Let's hear from and Essence on that question.
Okay. All right, I'll go first. Peace, beautiful, intelligent people. All right. When did I first join I first joined May 15th when they had a Mumia Abu-Jamal march, which was held by the Africa family. And they also talked about the remains that Penn University knew about when about the movement, how they were bombed on Osage Avenue in West Philly. And since then I joined that. And then I went to an informative / memorial, I guess, service, which happened that Saturday, where they also spoke on the Africa family as they were there. And many political prisoners spoke. And not just Black ones, but white ones as well. And I believe it's important. Oh, why did I join? Oh, I joined because I saw it was an Instagram post and I heard a little bit about Mumia Abu-Jamal and I wanted to learn more information. And also I have a huge interest in the Black Panther Party, and I knew some of the political prisoners, such as, Eldridge Cleaver, he was arrested. Assata Shakur, she was arrested. And also Mumia Abu-Jamal, I just learned recently, months ago, that he was, I believe, one of the founders of the Philly Black Panthers. And I also know that he is a journalist. So I think it's important to know why people were targeted in this fight, as different forms of systematic oppression is included when we talk about people being arrested. Not only racism, but capitalism too, because they do attack poor people, as that was one of the tactics that was used against the Black Panther Party, who sold newspapers to get money to buy many different things, and they had to use that money to free political prisoners who were arrested.
Great, wonderful. Anne, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, yes.
Great. I'll have to take it back a little bit in time to when I became involved in trying to organize for political prisoners. I read Life from Death Row when it was published, and I was, I think, 13 years old. I lived in northern Idaho, and books were my window to the outside world at that point. And so I read his book, and it changed everything. About a year and a half later, I saw the documentary interview that Dhoruba bin Wahad had done with Russell Maroon Shoatz. I was living in St. Louis at that point, and the address to write to Maroon was printed on the screen. And so I wrote Maroon a letter then. And for several years, we corresponded, and Maroon was a mentor to me. He sent me articles, I sent him articles. We talked about what was going on in the world and different movements, and it really planted a seed for who I would become as an adult. Fast forwarding to now, I think that political education has played a huge part in where I am today. I wanted to join up with the Free Maroon Now coalition to bring Maroon home, and I felt like to authentically be a part of it, I needed to learn more. And so I took a political education class with Brother Shep, and it's been eye-opening, and I'm continuing to learn every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And I think that that's actually a great segue to our next question, you know, talking about, you know, correspondence with political prisoners and prisoners of war. I know I heard a couple of folks talk about it, but can anybody want to share their experiences of correspondence with political prisoners, you know, be that writing letters, be that visits? We just heard some stories from Anne. Does anybody else want to tap in about that question? Anybody else have experience corresponding with political prisoners at all?
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Jump in.
Yeah, I first wanted to start with George Jackson. Comrade George Jackson once stated that anyone could be a political prisoner. So a lot of the comrades I speak to are political prisoners, and not in the sense of they have this revolutionary mindset, but they have this idea that they're living under oppression, and they want to combat against slave patrollers and deals and just anything that has to do with that imperialism and capitalist system. And so speaking with like just comrades in prison as in the whole as well is something that's very like touching and like an emotional type thing, because of the facts that I was once inside there. So I know the day and out, the everyday life that they're going through, whether they're getting keep locked for nonsense, direct order tickets that you can't beat. It's just a lot of nonsense that's going on there. And recently I'm speaking with the comrade Kwame Shakur with the Prison Lives Matters movement, and hearing him and hearing how he's moving in there, it's just like we really have to fight and continue to really push the notice that political prisoners are inside America, and we have to continue to awaken the media to that.
Kevin, thanks for that, Kevin. Appreciate that transparency. How about for you, Mike? I saw your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I correspond weekly with Veronda Bowers, who is a veteran of the Black Panther Party. He's been incarcerated for 48 years, incarcerated wrongfully, and yeah, wrongfully accused by 2 government informants, right? And has been qualified for parole, or no, qualified for mandated parole since 2004, right? But mentored by him, honestly, phone calls. It's been a struggle, you know, getting into this work, freeing political prisoners, organizing against this genocide that we're under attack every day. And he's guided me on cadre building, on organizing, telling me what to read, you know, taught me about self-criticism, taught me how to combat liberalism, all that good stuff. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Anybody else want to tap in on that question about correspondence with political prisoners, maybe what the experience has been like for you, what you've learned? Go ahead, Tag.
Yeah, I'm gonna just keep it as concise as possible, but I mean, I would say that one of the foremost honors, really, of my, you know, existence out here under the genocide that we're up against is linking up with, corresponding with political prisoners, prisoners of war. Basically, because I mean, these are the truest human beings that we have out here. You know, so you know, for example, meeting the MOVE women, you know, before they were finally released, you know, after, you know, and so it's always like, we always have to kind of be guarded in our language, because it's like, they're finally released, but look at what they did. Look at how much they, you know, they're just disrupting our lives on a collective level in such an entrenched way, because these heads are the truth. You meet, you know, few of us can really remember, you know, verbatim, for example, everything that's said in a conversation that we have with someone, you know, after a short period of time. But what is unforgettable is that energy, you know, when you're in a particular kind of space, dialogue, etc. And in my personal experience, when we're talking about political prisoners, prisoners of war, these are heads that are completely unforgettable with regard to just how they live and breathe in the world, you know, just on a spiritual, direct, experiential level. So like meeting the MOVE women, distinct, unforgettable memory. Meeting Mumia, distinct, unforgettable, you know, absolute, you know, so these are heads that, you know, this is why they are locked down and put under the jail, because just by being around people, they are affecting and influencing them in a positive way, in an unforgettable, infinite way. So, I mean, I could go on for days about that, you know, correspondence, etc. But these are the truth. This is why they are doing what they're doing to them, and this is why we have to be completely unflinching in our efforts to make sure that they all come home.
That's right. And quickly, before we get to our next question, I want to get to Kelsey. I did see your hand up.
I don't think so. I haven't had any luck corresponding. I've just written letters that haven't gotten responses, but that's real too.
And I would say continue to do so. Continue to do so as we work. Sophia?
Yes, great answers. I mean, this is such a moving panel. It's hard to move on from it, but we have these last 2 questions which we will combine. And basically that is, why is it important for youth to join the fight? And how can the youth support the work you and your organization do? I haven't heard back from Essence since the first time, so maybe I'll just throw this at her. Starting out.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just repeat it. Okay. All right. Again, it's important to know because people were targeted via capitalism and racism, and poor folks. And I think we have to look at it as, I would say like revolutionary thinkers. So if it doesn't align with what we know, or what, I'm sorry, not what we know, but what we've been taught, and it's obviously going to go against the things we taught and the people who continue to make these remarks about political prisoners, about rebels, calling them terrorists, and different things like that. So, yeah. Also the orgs. Wait, I'm sorry. That was the question. Ms. Sophie, that was a question.
Yeah. So the other piece was, how can the youth support the work you do and the work that your organization does?
Well, I know I'm a part of the Philly Peace Park, which is an organization that was created by Black folks. We have the North Philly Peace Park and we have the West Philly Peace Park. And it's land-based, so we have we grow our own food and it's free for the community. So, they can come in and, pick their own food. And we also love volunteers, whether you're from the Philly community or not. Even if you're not from like the Cecil B. Moore type area or the West Philly area, we love people to give back by learning how to plant, because that's also, I would say, revolutionary in itself, because they can shut down the grocery stores and guess what? Many of us won't have food. So we need to start, focusing on that, on what our ancestors did, what the indigenous people in this country did so that we can sustain ourselves. Because if we don't sustain ourselves through, our mind, our soul and body, then, we're just going to continue to be indoctrinated. So the Philly Peace Park accepts volunteers. You can follow us on Instagram, North Philly Peace Park, West Philly Peace Park, Philly Peace Park. And we also have educational events, like an educational extravaganza. A school is being built and we are creating a workbook for the children from 1st to 8th grade. So we're doing that. And another org I am closely related to is called the Coltrane Symposium, which is founded by Dr. Anyabwile Love, and he is accepting donations for a 4-day event he has on John Coltrane every single year. And the Coltrane Symposium, along with 4 Colored Girls and the Paul Robeson House and Museum, are having an event streaming online June 14th from 2 to 4 p.m. That's that.
Wow, love it. I hope people may note and will go out and support. Definitely. Cyrus, what's your thoughts on this question?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, sis. I think that a lot of us young folks in this country are really suffering a lot right now. There's a lot of pain, a lot of confusion, a lot of depression, suicide, drugs. I think a lot of people we don't have purpose. I think a lot of purpose to live has been taken. And I think once you start doing the work, the movement work, and working for others, and beginning to understand the larger context, the history, and the role models that we do have, the people that have stood for something and fought hard for something that they believed in, and it's for us, all of us. I think that when we remember that, it gives us purpose. It's giving me purpose again, something to fight for. So with that in mind, I think that's a very vital aspect to get the youth involved, because the youth are the ones that's going to keep carrying the work, and that's what we do the work for, is for the future generation. So I think it's crucial to bridge that gap between the elders and the future generations. That's something that, I think we all try to focus on in our work. In terms of Jericho, right now, I'm trying to work with others on a curriculum that we could help try to put into high schools and colleges. At least a small portion of the social justice or history classes that are taught across the nation should incorporate political prisoners, should incorporate the current reality of the people who paid a dear, dear price in those times that people love to study and isolate as if it was just history. So I think Mumia and Mutulu and Leonard, and all our political prisoners should be covered in high schools and colleges across the nation, across the earth, really. So I think that's really vital. And I think that when young people get to see that there's folks that are real, that's alive, and that are still, fighting for our rights, I think that's inspiring. And I think that's what young people need is for that inspiration. I know that's been a big inspiration in my life, and yeah, just trying to continue to work together and think of how we can inspire the youth, because we all know that once the youth get like lit up like that, then we're gonna be good. We're gonna get things rolling for real. So I pray that can happen, and I pray we could all work on that together in a good way to make it happen. So yeah, that's what I got right now. Thank you.
Awesome. No, thank you. Thank you. And any quick thoughts on that question?
Yeah, thank you. I think what Sarah said really resonated a lot with me, especially about having a purpose. I found that has really been something that has driven me. To add to that, if the youth can't carry the message, what happens to all of the work that we're doing now? We need to move it forward, and we need to find a way. And I think that, from what one of the key things from Brother Shep's class was each 10 teach 10. And we're doing that right now. We're all going to learn, and we're going to teach this forward. And the people that are going to learn from us are going to teach it forward. And if people are listening right now and they want to learn, I think they should get into the political education classes. I think, Brother Shep's class, we had high school students in the class with us, and that was phenomenal. Maroon Party for Liberation also has an amazing political education class that they teach, and it's looped in with what we do with Free Maroons Now. With them, you can email them and find out about the political education class, but also to join up with us. We meet weekly on Mondays at 7:00, alternating with committee meetings and having general meetings to organize. It's super easy. It's on Zoom. You can join from anywhere in the world and get started. If you email maroonpartyforliberation@gmail.com, you can join up with us. We're just starting this campaign to free Kamal Siddiqui, and it's all hands on deck. It's going to be part political education internally, as well as teaching people about his history and where he is today. There's so much that can be done. There's too many political prisoners still incarcerated in the United States. And I think that, there's just endless possibilities for the youth to be a part of this. We need them. I hope that they'll join. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ann. And I think one of the things we want to do, I want to paraphrase one of the questions that came in through the comments. Hopefully, maybe we could take a few more answers before we close this section. First of all of you have given just phenomenal answers. And I think, what I'm hearing the most out of this conversation, one is the need to have more panels where it's just you all leading and guiding for the entire night. That's first and foremost. But secondly, also making space for us to really do a deep dive into many of the organizations that have been shared tonight, be they Jericho or many of the other ones on the West Coast, East Coast, and really beyond, to kind of really figure out how we can coalesce a lot of the energy and ideas being shared tonight. But the question really became, what do you see, or what's been in your experience to be the most effective way to either A, mobilize, or B, educate folks, young adults, young people, right? We heard PE just now from Ann, but has there been a means, right? So I heard from Kevin earlier about music. We talked about, the introduction of Vic Mensa's piece. What have you found to be the most, substantial, but more importantly, effective way to mobilize young people? when it comes to this work? And anybody can jump in on that. I see a couple of smiles and nods. Go ahead, Kevin.
All right. Peace, y'all. I was thinking about a whole bunch of things, even to add on to the question that Sophia asked with what should the youth do? And the youth has always been the face of the movement. And always has been the spearhead of the movement. And it has to be that way. We have the energy, we have all that on our side, and it's just silly to think that you got to look at like Mama Pan, Brother Stay Cool, Dinga, Jaleel, and all these elders as your parents. And I'm not about to let my mama or my father go outside be fighting with no police. I'm gonna take that for them because they did that back in their day. And to answer your question though, I feel like media is so important, and social media, whether it's social media or we out here doing podcasts and different things like that, where it really get a control of the mindset of the people. It's media that's really brainwashing us, and the youth, with this social media thing that's going on, like Instagram, TikTok, they have a way of making things pop that no one else can, and we have to just really get in tune with like social media and just tap into like what's going on in pop culture, as well as also help us, because I'm not really as good at TikTok, right? Come help us in Experiment Della, bring Mumia home. Come help us in these organizations. We need y'all that's good on that on social media.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Does anybody else want to jump in on that question? What have you seen to be the most effective ways to mobilize folks, particularly young folks?
I'll go. I would say creating mbangis. I believe it's a Congolese word that means a room. Please correct me if I'm wrong. A room without walls. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I attend CCP, and Dr. Love is a Black Studies, one of my Black Studies professors, as well as a history teacher. And the people in my Black Studies 101 class in the fall of 2019 decided to create an Mbangi, which was like an educational Black safe space where, Black folks, whether you're in that class or not, come together and we talk about a myriad of things, from separating the art to the artist, to colorism, to hair, different things like that. And I felt as though that was effective because it was about students that was getting together. We had the sign-in sheets, students helped each other out with that. We would send in like the videos we wanted, because Dr. Love, he would give us, like people from like the 1940s and stuff like that. And we would try to connect it to today because, that's the day we're in. And if we can find a commonality as we did, it would make us more interested. So I would definitely say Mbangis, but not only on campus, also, you can create one in regular bookstores like the Bailey Street Bookshop, which is also founded by Dr. Love. Just connect with your group of people and start to bring in conversations like this.
Thank you, and shout out to Dr. Anya Wheeler Love at the Community College of Philadelphia. Any other thoughts on this? Perhaps Emok or Kelsey, perhaps?
Yes, and I'm gonna try to jam all three questions into 60 seconds.
Do what you can. Yep.
Because I know time's limited, but I think a great way, and honestly, the number one way is to provide community political education. Educate young folks about history and why we're even here today, and why we're even fighting for the same things that were fought for since our ancestors have even came face to face with these colonizers and these settlers, right? Political education is so key, and it's so key, right? When we think of the Black Panther Party, they're studying 3 times a week, reading 2 hours a day at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. And once you have that understanding, then it clicks, and then you can never go back. There's no going back once you have that. Oh, you're on mute.
Real quick, Emok, though, I think I want to dig deeper. How do you even get folks to the PE? I think that's also part of the question. How do you even get them there? How do you mobilize them to even want to be there in the first place?
Yeah, social media. Social media, just making your post as clear and not too much information on it. Political education, this day, this time, this subject, free, right? Have some incentives, have some food, have some merch, and encourage folks to come. I've done it with an organization that didn't have that much followers within the community. We've had at least 15 people, right? And then it just, the more we did it, the more people came. And also the importance of young people to join the struggle to free political prisoners. Like, these are human beings, and these are human beings that had the courage to fight, the courage to dedicate their lives to fight for you, to fight for me, to fight for us, to fight for the freedom of all oppressed people, right? And they're captured, in inhumane conditions, right? For decades. Mumia has been captured for 40 years. Veronza Bauer's been captured for 48, right? Rochelle McGee has been captured for, I think, 58. That's over 100 years, and that's only like 1/30 of the political prisoners. Hundreds of thousands of years of all of them combined together. And it's not right. It's not right. And like I said earlier, if you call yourself a revolutionary, if you call yourself an abolitionist, if you call yourself a communist, anything that rejects the political and economic reality that we're in right now, you're at risk of being a political prisoner. So doing this work is proactive for yourself and not waiting until the day that you're locked up to be reactive, right? And then lastly, to what you can do to support, it's easier than you think. Like, whatever your gifts are, whether it's graphic design, whether it's writing, whether it's video editing, we need help with TikTok. Nobody knows. I know we're young on here, but we're not that young. We don't know how to use TikTok. So please, like, anything, from just organizing or like setting up a Zoom meeting, come to Spirit of Mandela. You can email us at spiritofmandela1. We have different committees, and bring your gifts and bring your talents, and you can use that there.
Final word from Kelsey. If you could please add on to give us a final word on that thought, Kelsey.
I'll be so quick. I agree with everything Comrade Imok just said. In terms of getting kids to the events, getting youth to the events, make it what they want to be. Make it a place they want to be. That means food, that means snacks, that means comfy places to sit. Like, make it look cute. Don't make it like a hyper academic setting. Make sure they can be comfortable, invite their friends. And something that Jalil Muttaqim has said a lot, I believe there's podcasts, in fact, where he talks about this far better than I can, but getting youth to teach other youth. So if you have college students in a Black student union or some kind of advocacy for political prisoners or against capitalism, against racism, get them into high schools, have them helping out high schoolers doing the same movements, get those high schoolers into middle schools, have them teaching middle schoolers with the same movements. I work with young kids in like 3rd to 5th grade, and they are looking and really seeking older kids as mentors. And if we, the oldest youth and the adults, can help carry these pieces of the movement down, they can keep going.
Well, that's powerful. Thank you so much to Kelsey, to Kevin, Tag, Emma, Cyrus, Essence, and Ann. We thank you all for your brilliance, for your insight, input. Again, you were all amazing. And I'm sure that all of our participants and attendees will take all that you've shared and use it, right, into 2022 and beyond. So thank you again, salute, and keep up the fight, right? Stay encouraged. We got your back like you have ours. Thank you so much. Also, one of the ways, folks, that you can get involved, obviously, is to stay tapped in with Mobilization for Mumia. Again, Mobilization, the number 4, and Mumia, to continue to do the work for this campaign to free Mumia Abu-Jamal. Right now, we're going to get to actually the man of the hour, as it were, which is to hear some commentary from Mumia Abu-Jamal right now.
Those donations. Question: what do you call a judge who takes money from one side of a case? Answer: in Philadelphia, you call him Your Honor. Here I speak to notorious Judge Albert Sabo, who not only returned more death sentences than any other judge in Pennsylvania, but was also a life member of the Fraternal Order of Police, or the FOP. Sabo, my trial and post-trial judge, was so openly biased that a local newspaper carried a brilliant bright yellow banner headline saying, Sabo must go. But Sabo was just one of many. The point is, why isn't it against simple due process to take donations to do anybody's bidding? Because judges write the rules, period. In trials, they choose lawyers, and which won't. The courtroom is their fiefdom. If anyone denies this, just look at the Kyle Rittenhouse case. The accused was treated as if he was the judge's grandson. When's the last time you saw a judge outlaw the word victim? The court dropped charges as if he was dropping dimes on a street corner dice game. This ain't about a judge or a case. It's about a system. Let's change the damn system. From Imprisoned Nation, this is Mumia Abu-Jamal for Pan Africa. Thank you all. These commentaries are recorded by Prison Radio.
Thank you for sharing those words, and thank you, as always, to Mumia Abu-Jamal for always being diligent in his commentary to the people, to the masses, to bring out a good word for the mass of people. As you see on your screen, we want you to come on out, mobilize the whole tri-state area, certainly Philadelphia, certainly the East Coast. Come on out this Saturday, December 11th at 1 p.m. We'll be meeting on the south side of City Hall at the Octavius Catto statue. We are going to be talking about 40 years of unjust imprisonment. Is 40 years too long? We are going to have a mass rally in March, but our starting point at 1 p.m. is going to be at the Octavius Catto statue, again, at the south side of City Hall. We will be there, rain or shine. So if you do see in the weather forecast some rain, please bring your ponchos, please bring your umbrellas, and join us at 1 p.m. on Saturday, December 11th. Also, to continue to support and provide donations to this campaign, please go to the PayPal link to donate at mobilizationformumia.com/donate. Again, mobilization, the number 4, mumia.com/donate, where you can provide a PayPal donation to this campaign. Obviously, all of the support goes towards this campaign, towards producing events like this, but more importantly, towards Mumia Abu-Jamal himself and how we can stay engaged in this process. As you see on the screen, $5 a month, $10 a month, $50 a month, whatever works for you, whatever you're able to provide. Just know that it's going to a phenomenal cause, which is to work to bring our brother Mumia Abu-Jamal home. So once again, mobilization, the number 4, mumia.com/donate. Also stay on the website as well for more info and updates on what's happening right now with the campaign. So on behalf of myself and Sophia, thank you, Sophia, you were an amazing co-host as always. And thank you to all of our participants, speakers, and organizers and artists this evening. And thank you all for joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Zoom. We will free Mumia, and we will see it in a lifetime. Free them all, free them all.